Hi gang! While working on some larger projects, I thought I'd do a short video about many of the hand tools I use, and where I use them. In terms of screwdrivers, I mainly use this one, which has many different tips that can be used. This way I don't have to have a mess of screwdrivers cluttering up my workspace. And I can also use sockets from this socket set with it. However, sometimes I have to get into narrower holes, so I have screwdrivers with narrower shafts too. And most rarely, I need one with a shorter handle for getting in tight spaces, usually called a stubby. And then there are my most often used pliers. These needle nose pliers, so called because of their long narrow grippers, are great for holding onto things that will get too hot to hold, such as while soldering, but also for liquids that I just don't want to touch, like this paint thinner. Their long nose also comes in handy for holding things like this nut in a hard to reach space, but also for prying apart narrow plastic pieces. And then there are wire cutters, that are obviously good for cutting and trimming wires. The name I know for these ones is lineman's pliers. And though they're good for cutting thicker wires, I mainly use them for gripping things, such as when bending clothes hanger wire. And of course there's the crescent wrench, which can be adjusted for gripping many sizes of bolts. This tool has many uses, which it does moderately well for a multifunction tool. I mainly use it for stripping the ends of wires, and also for crimping connectors onto the ends of wires. For cutting I usually use only two hand saws, the first one being my hacksaw. I always have a metal cutting blade on it, one with many fine teeth, and here I'm cutting aluminum. But since it's a fairly quiet saw, I also cut all sorts of other things, such as this plastic, and even the case of this compact fluorescent lamp. The second handsaw I use is this wood cutting saw, when cutting wood. I also work with a lot of plastic, and if the cut doesn't have to be too fine, then I find these aviation snips do a quick job. But when the cuts have to be finer, then I use an X-ACTO knife, making many passes to cut deep, and taking much longer. For straight cuts of clear acrylic or plexiglass-like sheets, I use this actual plastic cutting tool. And for making quick, odd-shaped holes in plastic, there's always an old soldering iron, or in this case an old wood-burning tool. Of course, I often have to clamp things in place for working with them, so I have a variety of sizes of C-clamps, plus some much longer ones that come in handy. And then these plastic ones, that I use less often. Here C-clamps are holding things while drilling and cutting. And here I'm using a whole mix of sizes and types to screw something together, while it's held just right. And the plastic ones have other uses too, such as holding this plastic tube vertically. This small vise is also a sort of clamp, but notice that I'm using some C-clamps to hold the vise firmly to the table. The hand tool I probably use most often is my X-ACTO knife. It has a huge number of uses, such as widening a hole, or removing excess plastic, or drilling or cutting the hole in the first place. It can also be used for stripping wires, and coaxial cables. And of course, it can also be used just for normal cutting too. Another hand tool I use a lot is my hot glue gun. Here I'm hot gluing a coat hanger wire to wood, some plastic square tubes together, an LED into a bottle cap, a speaker into a skull, some legs onto a spiral-shaped coil, some feet onto a balsa wood leg, and parts of a bottle together. And that's a brain dump of most of my hand tools. If you have any favorite tools that you'd like to add, or different ways you use the ones I've mentioned, then please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear about them, and I'm sure others would too. Well, thanks for watching. See my YouTube channel for more videos on making things. It seems a lot of the clips you saw came from my videos on making a Wimshurst machine using CDs, making a gravity light, that's LEDs powered by falling mass, and hacking a fly swatter to power a compact fluorescent lamp. And don't forget to subscribe if you like these videos, or give a thumbs up, share with your social media, or leave a question or a comment below. See you in a bit.